everyone, I am really excited you guys are here. I've been putting out a video every single week for the past several months on important investing topics to help you guys become better investors in whatever form that means, sharing what I am learning, my portfolio, and everything like that. And I have some news for you guys. Starting this week, I'm actually going to be changing full-time to going over to writing and putting out newsletters on Substack. So you guys go check that out. For the time being, YouTube is going to have a pause until at a future date I am able to and have the time to do both. But for now, I'm going to be moving over there. So again, go check that out. I would love to have you guys there. I'm already seeing some really great things happen. And for most everything, it is completely free. But if you want a lot more details on my portfolio, full analysis of companies, there is the cheapest I could absolutely make a paid there. So go check that out. I really appreciate you guys and have loved doing this. And just so you know, I will be back at some point. I don't know the exact date, especially with a lot of life changes going on. But right now, let's jump into this week's video. What makes a great business moat? A moat is a protection a business has from outside competitors taking market share or profits away from them. This protection can be built by the company itself or naturally occurring in their industry. You guys have probably heard someone's pretty famous, Warren Buffett, talk about this a lot. He talks about these because they are really, really important. If a company has a wide moat, it will make them more durable and predictable. Both great things if you're looking for a high value business. And if you can identify moats in businesses, it will serve as one of the most important tools to create wealth. So this is really important that you understand this. There's tons of things out there, but I wanted to share exactly what a moat might look like. And hopefully this gives you an idea of how to look for it. And you guys throw any questions down you guys have below, or go over to Substack, throw them in there, and I will be happy to answer everything that I can. First off, it's important to note that an economic moat is different than a competitive advantage. An economic moat and competitive advantage are both very distinct and important to understand. A competitive advantage allows a company to currently earn a premium over others in the industry. An economic moat is a sustainable competitive advantage. This is really, really important that you understand this, because there are a lot of companies that get really hot because they have a current competitive advantage. It is not a sustainable competitive advantage. One perfect example, I think, right now is NVIDIA. NVIDIA has been obviously on an absolute tear, but what moat do they have keeping any company from doing exactly what they're doing? They have no government contracts. They have no proprietary technology. Nothing that really could keep anyone from doing what they're doing. And in fact, other semiconductor companies are trying to do exactly what they're doing. Intel and AMD specifically being the biggest ones. And that's a very, very important distinction here. So here are the different types of economic moats, although this is not all of them. And I'm actually going to link a phenomenal video that Hormozi actually put out today. It's more specifically from a business perspective, but go check that out because, man, he goes into great detail on some of these other ones that I am not touching on, and it will be another perspective on these ones as well. So first, you could have a low-cost type of moat. You could also have a moat due to regulations, a moat because of the switching costs, a moat because of the network effects, or just because of huge capital requirements. So let's go through some examples of companies that operate with these types of moats. First off, let's look at a low-cost example, and the first one that I actually thought of here was Costco. Their philosophy is keep costs down and pass the savings on to our members. Our large membership base and tremendous buying power combined with our never-ending quest for efficiency results in the best possible prices for our members. This is proven in their gross margins as compared to other competitors. Costco has a gross margin of 12.6%, while their average competitor has a gross margin of 25.8%. The cost savings they bring has won them incredibly loyal customers. And I think that this moat is often identified when you review a wide range of competitors in a commodity type business where one is able to generate similar or even higher returns with a lower cost to their customers than their competitors. It's also important to pay attention to what kind of profit margins do they have, because you'll actually notice when you look into the details, Costco is pretty competitive when it comes to their profit margin, even though they have a gross margin of about half of that of their competitors. So this is a great way to look at it, and Costco is one of the best examples of a competitive moat. And because their prices are so low, many smaller competitors just absolutely cannot compete. They just can't. And so Costco pushes them out in their market, and they're going to continue to dominate as long as nothing serious here changes. Another great example is in regulations. And one of the companies that I first thought of here was Union Pacific. As you probably could have guessed, any railroad is subject to extreme levels of regulation, and building a new one would be incredibly difficult. It would require a large amount of land crossing many counties and states, often requiring many levels of approval before things can even begin. This is not to mention one of the largest issues, which would be relocating current infrastructure to accommodate the new rail system. This would most likely require approval from dozens of businesses, regulatory board, residents in the area, environmental boards, states, counties, and many others that I have not named. These types of moats are often located in boring businesses like utilities. Many will get very long-term contracts and operate as monopolies over a market. Just like Union Pacific, if anyone wanted to go out and try and start a railroad company, the amount of regulations that they would need to go through just to get started are incredible. And this means that Union Pacific is essentially going to operate without any major competition other than those that are already established. And it means they're a durable business, a very durable one at that. The next example, we're going to look at switching costs. Microsoft is one of the great examples here. Microsoft operates in several software arenas where the cost of switching for their customer is incredibly high. Many of their customers have their business highly integrated with things like Teams and Office, which would require lots of capital and time to unwind, along with just the headaches of the transition. This type of moat can be a little bit more difficult to determine. It will take work to deeply understand how integrated some product is in their customers' lives and how satisfied they are with the service being provided. This is one that you might be able to find in smaller companies that operate with incredible value and importance to the businesses that use that product or service. So Microsoft is a great example here. Moving on to the next, the network effect. There is no company, in my opinion, that has a better example of this than Meta. They're a perfect example of a network effect where more users mean more value for others looking for a platform. This will continue to build on itself as more and more people join Facebook, Instagram, or WhatsApp. This moat is often afforded to companies that have a large market share with great retention. Customers are dependent on the service or product provided and would not get the same value if they switched to another. In essence, this gets more and more valuable as more and more people use that product. You think about how many people that you gain access to when you start a Facebook or Instagram profile. Billions. There are very few other options that you have to get that kind of reach, and that provides tremendous value. Think if you ran a very large company and you wanted to reach people about and just let them know about what you do, you're probably not going to pick a no-name, brand new social media company that has a couple million users. You're going to pick something like Facebook, where you know you can reach out to the vast majority of people in the US all in one place. And that's why it gets more valuable. The next example is huge capital requirements. Boeing is a great example here. Boeing enjoys a natural moat that the aviation industry is an incredibly expensive one. Boeing's planes can cost on the high end $450 million per plane, and yet the company's peak free cash flow margin sits at 13.9%. And yet it probably cost them $387 million to build that one plane. That means that a new entrant would need at least a few tens of billions of dollars to get things running, as this cost doesn't even include the money or time it takes to design and develop a new plane. And I didn't mention there, even just to have the tools, the machinery, the infrastructure, the agreements, and all of those things that it would take to just get started are at the very least, in the billions of dollars. And that's just to get going. There are very few companies that would have the kind of capital or the type of people that have the skills necessary to raise that kind of capital to get something going in this space. This moat will almost always be found in large companies operating in niches. They will often have projects with very long time horizons and will also have great benefits from economies of scale, which prevent smaller competitors from growing in the first place. Hopefully this was a good overview of different moats that you can find and what companies you can find them in. You may be looking for some tip or trick here, but the reality is this is going to take a lot of work to identify these moats. Spending lots of time reading annual reports of several competitors in an industry to understand where each company lies. Study current brands with obvious moats like those listed before. Some other fantastic example could be Coca-Cola, Geico, Gillette, Kinzel Capital, Amazon, Visa, Disney, or Lockheed Martin. Those are other great companies that have very, very good moats. Study their stories from when they were just starting and then look for those same signs in other smaller caps. It is certainly a lot of work, but the payoff is huge when you identify a company with a sustainable competitive advantage. I hope this was really valuable for you guys. Spend a lot of time understanding this. Obviously, go and read everything that Warren has ever put out on this topic. Warren and Charlie, anything that's come from Berkshire. That is where I am learning about all these things and how to put it in place. So hopefully this was valuable. Throw any questions that you guys have down below. And now we're actually going to switch gears. And I just had one question from last week's video that I wanted to answer. And I do this every week. You can go back and look at my past videos. If you guys have questions, I will answer them directly in the comments, or go over to Substack and I will include them in articles or answer them directly, whatever is most valuable to you guys. So with that, we're going to move on just to this last question. From last week, we had Chibwe from Zambia, where he says, IHS dominates and local currency devalue is a major risk. And this is what I touched on in my previous video. I could also add and ask, what is your take on the entry of Elon Musk's Starlink, which may not need to build out towers, and Starlink could enter the market? So I wanted to dive into this, and I'm going to give a lot of detail here, so hopefully this is helpful. So Starlink obviously is Elon Musk's company that is launching out many, many satellites every single month, giving out, providing internet service to often underserved and remote areas that just don't have access to typical tower infrastructure. So when I looked into to get a little bit more details here, one low orbit satellite can cover an area of about 457.46 square kilometers. The total land area of Earth, excluding Antarctica, is 134.34 million square kilometers. This would mean they would need about 293,000 satellites to cover the world perfectly. Assuming that they could find a way through different pathing and efficient use of their satellites to reduce that by 80%, that brings us to a total of just under 59,000 satellites. SpaceX currently only has about 6,200. Those are the ones currently in orbit and working, and they can launch about 200 per month. If we ignore the lifespan of 5 years of each of those satellites and assume they will launch 300 per month, it will take them a little over 14 years to get to this number to cover the entire world if they're only need 20% of what I suspect. They may in the future be able to provide coverage to countries around the world at a cheaper cost than traditional towers, but it's probably a long ways out. Not to mention, they're generally currently more expensive to use than traditional towers, and while that will come down, just like I said, I expect it to be a very long time before it would be cheaper to use satellites. All in all, I don't think Starlink is a very big risk to IHS at all. They could certainly take little pieces of the market here and there, but anywhere that IHS currently covers, I suspect it is far cheaper to use their services and far cheaper for IHS to expand their services in these areas. They might find ways to continue to get more and more efficient, have more reach, cut those costs down. So maybe sometime in the future, Starlink would be a major competitor here, but I do not foresee this anytime in the near future. So hopefully that was helpful. I appreciate you guys being here. Again, go check out that Substack down below, and I will see you guys over there in my articles. Go check those out, and someday I will be back here creating videos and giving value to you guys. So with that, I'm going to sign out.